filter through this land of ours and fill a sportsman's dreams. Enjoy what nature holds for us, her bounty never ends. Getting back to basics with the practical sportsman. It's always an adventure, no matter where we go. From a favorite hunting spot to the hottest fishing hole. Outdoor life we all can share with family and friends. We'll do it all together with a practical sportsman. We'll do it all together with a practical sportsman.
Hi there, come on in. I'm Fred Trost, inviting you to join me for the last Practical Sportsman show of the year, of the decade, of the millennium. And we are having our meeting where we're going to talk about fawns. Right here, this little critter. Fawns are big in the news. They're big in the minds of deer hunters. Quite a controversy regarding the DNR and their regulations. That's what we're going to talk about in the next half hour, so stay tuned. I said the theme of this program, at least starting off, will be fawns. Fawns have been quite controversial in the news in a number of ways. First of all, let's talk about that fawn rescue. June 14th, a guy named Gary Going got his name in the paper here. Man faces fine, jail for saving fawn. That was in the Lansing State Journal. Detroit News says man accused of theft for rescuing fawn. Accused of theft. That's right. The Department of Natural Resources is bringing charges against a man named Gary Going of Wademan, who says he was stealing state property. And I'm not going to steal the thunder from his story. He was planning on being on the show here this evening, but we're going to have to wait for a couple weeks to get him interviewed. But he is being taken to court on a criminal charge for stealing a deer. What the DNR says is the same thing as poaching. And in a nutshell, what happened is on June 14th, he was driving down a highway, saw a doe that was killed by a car, and a little fawn next to the doe. Now, here's a fawn that we have in the museum. This is a freeze-dried fawn that was about a week old. This fawn that Gary Going picked up was about 2 weeks old or so. So it really wasn't able to fend for itself, at least in Gary's mind. But we're going to go into this whole story with Gary because it's quite a controversy. In fact, some of the recent articles in the newspaper, deer rescuers prosecution draws fire, DNR criticized after fawn rescue. I mean, they're talking about finding this guy a couple $1,000s, taking his hunting license away, possible jail time for rescuing a fawn. Now, Gary said, and this is the key part of this article, he says, quote, "I wasn't trying to break the law. I was trying to do the right thing, the humane thing, what anyone else would do. The only thing I did wrong was save its life." Now, the prosecutor up there in Mount Pleasant, and I can't really fault the prosecutor, she's just doing her job, prosecuting the charges that are brought by the DNR. She says his good intentions are irrelevant because he broke the law. And that's oftentimes how it is. Even if you have good intentions, you break the law, it's irrelevant. But this is extremely ironic, given another news story that you probably haven't seen. This was in the Northwoods Call. The Northwoods Call had an article. It says, DNR Law Chief Burns comes under fire. There it is. DNR lawman charged Chief Burns with misusing boats and people. Now follow me here. This is going to tie in, believe me, with the theme of the show. This is Herb Burns, the guy who is the head of the law division, who went up to a meeting in the Upper Peninsula, and then, long story short, he took his wife along with some other wives of DNR personnel, used conservation officers and DNR boats to shuttle the wives around Isle Royal just for sightseeing. Just so happens that is against the rules, against the DNR regulations, and apparently Herb Burns himself has reprimanded other DNR officers for doing this same type of thing. Well, the good part of this story is the next issue of the Northwoods Call. Here's what Herb Burns said. Now remember, Gary Going said, I wasn't trying to break the law. Remember, Gary Going said that about the fawn, and the prosecutor said his good intentions are irrelevant because he broke the law. Here's what our law chief of the DNR Law Division said. In my mind, I saw nothing wrong with it. There certainly was not intent to do anything wrong. Well, I think this applies to Herb Burns. His good intentions are irrelevant because he broke the law. Well, this is a fuss that's going on in the law division, whether the law chief should be above the law, and the big fuss in the paper is whether this deer rescuer should go to jail or be fined. And this, I guess the trial has been postponed indefinitely right now, but we'll see what happens on that one. Now, speaking of fawns, I have on this tape recorder here a voicemail of a fellow who called me recently. Well, listen to this.
Hi, Mr. Trost. My name is Tom Berry. I'm one of your viewers. On your last show that we viewed here in Saginaw, Michigan, on Channel 19, twice during that show, they talked about the deer that had been taken were does and fawns. Immediately when I said this to my friends the next day, they all hackled their hair and said, fawns? These animal lovers sure don't want to hear the words fawn. Do you think that there's some way we could start a new tradition, and instead of saying fawns, say yearlings? Then we won't have them thinking about Bambi being shot out in the woods. Thanks for your time and consideration. Have a good one. Merry Christmas.
And I have heard that point of view from other hunters as well. But let me just go over a few quick points about why I don't think we should call these critters yearlings. Number one, these deer are born in June, in the first week in June. By mid-November, when they're hunted, they're about 5.5 months old. I mean, at the end of November, maybe 6 months old. Any way you cut it, they are fawns. And calling them a yearling doesn't change that. The other thing is, when Tom used the words fawns, these animal lovers sure don't want to hear the word fawn. Now, hold on, what do you mean animal lovers? These animal lovers, you mean the anti-hunters? Hunters are animal lovers. And I think we have to face the facts the way they are. The DNR has unlimited antlerless permits on private land in the Lower Peninsula right now. And what hunters are shooting is fawns. That's what the controversy is over. And we can't gloss over by saying they're yearlings. I mean, hunters are the ones who are bothered by this. Hunters are the ones who have formed Whitetails Forever. Hunters are the ones who don't want to shoot the small deer like this, at least most of them. So that's why I say I'm not going to whitewash what the DNR is doing with these unlimited permits and saying, well, these are yearlings. In a lot of our minds, it is not justified. Anyway, this meeting is getting so big right now that they have moved it to the high school. Here's an update on Whitetails Forever. Alger County is in the middle of the Upper Peninsula on the Lake Superior shore. A lot of trophy fish come from Lake Superior, but there are also some good inland lakes and streams that produce big fish in that county. In the 3-year period from 1997 to 1999, 20 hunting and fishing trophies that met our minimum qualifications for Marbles Hunting and Fishing Awards came from Alger County. 8 lake trout between 19.5 and 38.5 pounds, 3 trophy brook trout, 2 northern pike, 1 each in smallmouth bass, yellow perch, bullhead, and white sucker. Hunting awards for the past 3 years, 2 deer and 1 bear. Now we'll start with the smallest, the bullhead that Matthew Payment from Newberry caught from Nowaka Lake when he was 11 years old. At 14.5 inches, that's a big bullhead catfish. This smallmouth bass is as pretty as they come. Mike Fowler is wearing a Michigan t-shirt. You can see it under his blue shirt, but he's actually from Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. He left this 21.5-inch smallmouth bass for Michigan folks to catch. It tipped the scale he had in his tackle box at 8 pounds before he released it back into Echo Lake. Now that is a pretty fish. The big guy didn't catch that 41-inch northern pike. 8-year-old Joe Goranak from St. Clair caught it in July in a lake in Alger County. Now this is the fish that Alger County is famous for, big lake trout. 13-year-old David Dinsmore from Fairgrove caught this 40-incher, weighed 23 pounds. What a lake trout. But this one's even bigger, 27.5 pounds, 40 inches long. Gil Dezarchik from Waterford caught it on a calm day this past June. Now those are pretty lake trout that come from the depths of Lake Superior. Now here's one trophy buck from Alger County. Owen McCullen from Saginaw got it in 1997. 9-point, 20-inch spread, 10-inch tines. In 1998, Richard Jazuski from Pinconning made it on Big Buck Night with a big 11-point he took from Alger County. And finally, here's the one bear we've had registered from Alger County. The guy holding the red and white cane took it, and as you might guess, there's quite a story that goes with it. I have no clue where this is going, but you are the hunter, Ace Galbraith from Croswell,
Yes.
hunting Alger County, and you were bear hunting. Now, I just presume from the glasses and the white cane with the red tip.
You thought it was Moses.
Well, I wasn't really sure. What is the story here?
Well, I'm blinder than a bat, but that's elementary. Junior told me if I got my bear license, he'd take me bear hunting. So I lucked out and drove. So we got a hold of this outfitter by the name of Mac. We went up to Alger County, run across this Mac up there, pick us the 3 or 4 bait piles. Junior says, I like this bait pile. And I says, well, whatever. Well, I know we could have been at the zoo, you know. And anyways, we get up there, and next day we go out there at 3 o'clock. Junior and me sitting there. It was warm that day. All of a sudden, we practiced with a gun. This wasn't just a quick deal. Had the gun sitting there.
Now, hold it. You might as well explain how we practiced with the gun.
Well, for a month or so, he'd come down and got a 30-06, and we'd just practice. He'd be behind me over my shoulder.
He would hold the gun. I'd look through the scope for him. Look through the scope and just get it on the target and tell him when to pull the trigger. When I'd say no, he would pull the trigger.
What, so Ace couldn't have had his cheek on the stock then?
No.
Or do you have
no,
the...
just off of here.
Okay. And what caliber were you shooting?
30-06.
Woo.
So anyways, Junior, we're sitting there. Junior says, cock and lock and get ready to rock. And I thought, well, there's Tedley right here. So anyways, I pulled up and he says, there's a bear out there. I puts it out the window. And the word is now. He says, safety off. And if I'm not ready, I'm not pulling the trigger. He said, now. I must have been inhaling or exhaling, and I just wasn't ready. So waited again, and he said, now. And I just wasn't ready. Then he says, now, bang. All of a sudden, the bear, he said, you hit him. I said, let's give him another. And he says, he's gone. I don't swear, but I know the words, Fred. I said something like cheese and crackers. But anyways, I said, let's get down there. I jumps out of this little 5x5 blind we had, and Junior says, well, wait till I get my clothes on. I said, what? He's got his shoes and stuff off. It's 80 degrees up there.
It was hot. It was a warm day, so I
Then
took
I
my
said-
shirt off and my boots off and was relaxing.
And I says, cheese and crackers again. And he hands me one of them little snack packs in my hand. So he gets down there, and there's no blood, no nothing. He says, well, I said, well, where? He said, man, that's nothing but brush. So he said, well, let's go get our outfitter. So went and got the outfitter and come back. I'm standing by the truck. Naturally, he don't have a license. The outfitter don't have a license. Well, they're going in there. Next thing I know, I hear them getting a couple logs for clubs. They went in there, and they found it about 50, 60 yards, they claim.
Wow.
That was quite the experience. When we were driving back to find the bear, there was another one on the bait pile as we pulled up.
No kidding.
Yes.
And how big was this bear?
About 250 pounds.
Well, now, what is that like, being a blind hunter? And like you said, you didn't know whether you were at the zoo
No,
or
right.
up there.
That's different. Like I got my first deer last year. Can you believe that? I hate to say it, but it was 43 years before I got my first deer. And I was with a bow, and I got one this year with Junior. Last year was a friend of mine by the name of Jim Schott. But anyways, with a bow. What's funny, Fred, get a guy behind you. I'm always, cool as a cucumber. Next thing
You
I
don't get
know-
buck fever.
No, well, until they start breathing down my neck. Then this arm is about like this. 4 arms, and get them on the cross, I tell them, Then when they eat liver and onions, that makes it worse, Fred.
So, but you, what is it about hunting that you enjoy?
Well, I've done it all my life. My father was a great hunter, and I've hunted with him.
Have you been blind since you were young, or?
No, years ago I was on with you. I had them long glasses, if you ever...
Okay, I remember that. That was at the Civic
I had a
Center.
bet with a guy. You do remember that, huh?
Yeah.
I got a turkey. That was my first turkey. I've got 6 turkeys, 2 deer, and a bear. And everything I've ever shot at, I've never missed, so I don't think I should shoot anymore.
Wow.
Can you believe that, Garb?
So you gradually went blind.
Oh, yes.
Right? So you still remember in your head, you
Yeah,
have
right.
visions of what it is.
You just got to trust your wife and your son-in-law and who's ever out there
now,
behind me.
Now, just out of curiosity, when you get the bear down like that, and they say you got a bear, the only way you could really notice to like feel it, right?
Right, and that was the only scary part to me. As you said, don't get graphic, but it was just like a human. Two of them says, touch this. Grab hold of the leg while he was doing this thing, and my God, it felt just like a man. And I thought we could have been at the zoo.
Well, I don't know where you were touching and all the deals that goes with all
On
that.
the kneecap, Fred.
On the kneecap? Seriously?
Oh, yeah, did you ever touch a bear on the kneecap? It was just like a human.
Huh.
A little
That's
scary.
interesting.
I did get a little nervous then.
Have you eaten the bear meat?
Oh, yes.
That must be pretty neat.
Oh, yeah, really, it's a conversation piece around the old homestead.
Well, outstanding.
Couple local use making good, you know.
Well, Ace, it's a pleasure to have you back again.
Anyways, Fred, this might not be Milo's finger, but you can touch it.
The Milo Hansen figure. So
Right.
you're rubbing the luck off onto me. Well, thank you.
You bet.
Ace Galbraith from Croswell. What a story on the bear. You're not going to hear a hunting tale like that very often, which is why we'll make Ace Galbraith from Croswell our Marbles Trophy Hunter of the Week. Well, that wraps up this show, wraps up this week, this month, this year, wraps up this decade, wraps up this millennium, depending on how you count it. But enjoy yourself. We do have ice fishing out there. Be very, very careful. Next week's show, by the way, I had to do in advance because nobody knows, what electronic or computer problems are going to be coming down. So anyway, any way you cut it, enjoy yourself outdoors, and I'll see you in the year 2000. On June 14th, he was driving down a highway, saw a doe that was killed by a car, and a little fawn next to the doe. Now, here's a fawn that we have in the museum. This is a freeze-dried fawn that was about a week old. This fawn that Gary Going picked up was about 2 weeks old or so. So it really wasn't able to fend for itself, at least in Gary's mind. But we're going to go into this whole story with Gary because it's quite a controversy. In fact, some of the recent articles in the newspaper, deer rescuers prosecution draws fire, DNR criticized after fawn rescue. I mean, they're talking about finding this guy a couple $1,000s, taking his hunting license away, possible jail time for rescuing a fawn.